Hey there everyone, my name is Luke and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to be introducing to you a new product I've had sent for review very kindly by the team over at Player One Astronomy. It's one of their new solar range of cameras called the Apollo M Mini. This particular one has an IMX429 sensor in it, which is a 2.8 megapixel chip, and it's got 4.5 micron pixels, so quite large. I've been having a lot of fun using this so far, even though the opportunities to get out there and use it have been very limited due to extremely bad weather we've had in England just recently. However, I'm looking forward to using it quite a lot more in the coming months, especially through Galaxy season. I think there's a lot I'm going to be able to do with this camera. And really, before we get into the main kind of meat of this review, I just feel like I should clear the air and let you know basically that I'm under no obligations. There was no contract signed, nothing whatsoever, no strings attached at all to this review. And I hope that that'd be apparent anyway, because I'm not the sort of person who would just accept a review for gain like that. It's just interested to me to be able to test out things like this and share my results with you guys at home. So I hope that that's clear. I'll be saying whatever I actually think about this camera, and you can glean from that whatever you would wish. And I hope that this is enjoyable for you guys to watch. Now let's get started with the review. I think we should talk about maybe a few of the specifications to begin with, and one of the main features of this sensor is the fact that it is a global shutter rather than this standard kind of rolling shutter that you'd find on pretty much every CMOS sensor out there. Now, there is an advantage to using a global shutter in that it reads out the whole frame kind of at once and doesn't introduce any of those kind of strange shimmering jellified artifacts that you might see with a rolling shutter CMOS at high frame rates. You've maybe seen these effects yourselves if you've done any lunar imaging or planetary imaging or maybe solar imaging. It's not something I've tried yet, so I can't really speak with any authority on the subject, but basically, as I understand it, if you were to take an apples to apples comparison, two identical sensors, but one was a global shutter and the other kind of a rolling shutter, then the global shutter should give sharper results overall. Now, I've had the opportunity to test this camera out a little bit indoors, as well as just a few short sessions really outdoors, and one of the first things that I noticed is the frame rate capabilities of it. It's apparently able to do 84 frames per second in 8-bit mode, and in my own testing I was able to reproduce that, which is great news of course. It means that it's not just marketing guff, but it's actually come from real statistics and it is attainable, which I thought was quite cool. Now the next point worth mentioning is the fact that it does have that 256 megabyte frame buffer like the other cameras in Player One's range, which I think is a great addition to find on planetary cameras at this sort of price point, because it's just not seen on, as far as I'm aware, any of the competitors' offerings. The only time you'll see it is kind of on the higher end ZWO and QHY, Altair Astro, that kind of thing, where, you know, fair play, you are going to introduce it on a a little bit more of a more expensive camera, but it's just great to see it included on these at this price point, because it's a really nice feature to have, especially for cameras designed for this particular usage case, where high frame rates and high amounts of data flowing kind of out of the camera are going to be a common feature to any imaging session performed with them. I guess the next interesting feature to the camera is that it's got an inbuilt kind of cold finger, and it sinks heat away from the sensor to this metal body of the camera, which is a really, if you'll excuse the pun, it's quite a cool feature to have, because it's going to help keep those sensor temperatures that little bit lower during imaging sessions. Maybe like if you're doing solar, you're out there in the day, maybe the sun's beating down on the camera, or maybe a little bit extra energy is reaching that sensor than would otherwise happen in traditional deep sky imaging. And as I understand it, it's normal for temperatures to rise in that sort of scenario, and that should just help keep kind of a handle on this and make it run that little bit cooler and give that little bit lower noise performance that goes with those lower temperatures. Now, like the other cameras in Player One's range, this does also benefit from the DPS technology that they use, that's dead pixel suppression, which is, as I understand it, a way that Player One basically takes almost a look at the fingerprint of your individual camera that you're going to receive on a, as I say, an individual basis, because each sensor is slightly different with the layout of hot and stuck pixels, and basically puts a corrective map into the camera's memory for your sensor, which I think is a great thing to have, and it certainly seems to have at least zero detrimental effect that I've noticed. It seems to only just be positive, so that's great. Now finally, like the other Player One camera that I bought for myself, the Neptune C2, and like the other cameras in Player One's range, again, it does benefit from having a built-in sensor tilting plate, which again, it's one of those things I'd really like to see on many more cameras, to be quite honest, because it's such a useful thing to have. Ideally, you'd never need to use it, but when you perhaps maybe do need to use it and you find that you haven't got one and you have to dip into your wallet again and buy something to do some tilting with, well, I guess you'd just be glad that you kind of have it on your camera natively like you do in this case. Now, especially for solar, I do understand that this is particularly an important feature to have, because I haven't done it myself, but I know that solar images can suffer from Newton rings, and they're generally alleviated by basically deliberately introducing some tilt into the focal plane. So it's great that they've decided to include that, especially on a solar camera like this. Now the camera comes itself in a nice little presentation box with quite a nice little set of accessories. I think you've got a USB cable, as you would expect, an SD4 cable, but it also comes with a set of the correct type of Allen keys to adjust this sensor tilting plate, as we just mentioned and talked about that. And also it comes in the box with a rocket blower, which is quite a nice addition. It's a great and completely really non-intrusive way to get any kind of dust particles and things off those optical surfaces without having to resort to kind of physically cleaning them with cotton buds and the like, which is a nice thing to have if you don't already have one of those. It's great to see included. As I've mentioned, this camera is designed as a solar imaging camera, but I currently don't have any solar imaging equipment to test this out with, and I did let Player One know about that ahead of time, of course, and they were actually really encouraging about just going ahead anyway and testing it out with what I did have, which is aimed all at deep sky imaging and the like. And I'm happy to say it seems to be performing fantastically, even though it's completely out of the design scope of this little camera. So far I've managed to test it with 10-second exposures on the Monkey Head Nebula, which is kind of more of a mission nebula narrowband target, and I just shot that through my Optolong L Extreme filter, and that turned out great. I got just a bit over an hour, I think, live stacking in sharp gap. On that particular project I didn't use any darks, any flats, any bias. And then a little bit after that I did get another clear night, which lasted a little bit longer than that first one. And in that session I decided to shoot M51 using 20-second exposures on that particular night with only just a UV IR cutting filter. And on that particular session I did do full calibration, so I used matched darks, flats and bias, and pretty much by accident, I wasn't expecting it at all, but I think I took my best image of M51 I've ever taken using those short exposures, which came as a nice surprise, as you can imagine, especially coming from a camera really at this kind of price point. It just came out of left field and I thought, well, that's nice. Now, as you can probably imagine, after that initial success on M51, which made me kind of really sit up and take notice, it also got me extremely excited for what's really just around the corner now. We're just about coming into galaxy season now, over here in England, in the northern hemisphere of course, and I think this is going to give me the opportunity to shoot a lot of perhaps less commonly shot targets because of its high sensitivity, low read noise. It's going to be perfect as a companion for the type of imaging that I'm really enjoying doing right now with these kind of large scopes and short-ish exposures. And to that end, really, I have been looking basically to get a filter wheel and some LRGB filters to use along with this camera, as I think that's going to make for a great little combination, and it's going to certainly increase the quality of the images that I can attain with it and share with all of you guys at home. I'm looking forward to using this quite a lot more. Now, I've had the opportunity to do a bit of indoor testing with this camera too, to kind of take a look at any banding or dark frames, check them for amp glow, things like that, and basically here's what I've found. So the dark frames, it does seem like there's a little bit of amp glow. It goes from the top of the frame down to the bottom, kind of almost like a sheet, if you will. It's not the traditional starburst patterns that you might find on a 294, a 183 or a 178 sensor, nothing like that really. And indeed, in that image of the monkey head where I didn't calibrate it with any darks, whatsoever. It certainly wasn't showing in that image, so it must be a very weak signal. In fact, it is a weak signal because I had to really heavily stretch the DAC frames when I took them to make it kind of visible. But there it is. It does have some amp glow, as is to be expected for a sensor of this kind of generation. I don't think there's any 400 series IMXs with no amp glow. Banding, basically it does have some banding, but it's not a correlating banding. It seems to be totally random, frame to frame. It changes all the time, so basically it should cancel itself out when you've taken enough lights to stack. And I guess the other important thing to mention, again, by going back to that uncalibrated monkey head image taken with the L Extreme, no banding at all was visible in that shot, and I think that's because it's an extremely weak signal. It's not a particularly strong banding. And indeed, if you capture using Sharp Cap, if that's the kind of thing that you like to use, you could use banding suppression. I found that when it turns to 50%, it totally eliminates any and all evidence of banding in those kind of bias frames and things like that. But I haven't used it myself. I just haven't found the need to, because it seems to be such a weak signal that it gets completely swamped by just about any background sky light landing on that sensor. So that's great news to see. Now, as I was looking through the spec sheet for this camera and doing a Sharp Cap sensor analysis and things like that, it became apparent that I reckon this camera is going to be a good candidate for doing some deep sky lucky imaging with, potentially, because for its quite large pixel size of 4.5 by 4.5 microns, it has a, by comparison, very low total read noise of only about 1.5 electrons at high gain. And if you take the time to kind of compare that on a standardized scale to other sensors on the market, so if you compare that read noise per square micron of pixel area, it's actually one of the lowest read noise sensors on the market, which I thought was quite an interesting development from this little camera. Well, I do hope that you've enjoyed seeing this kind of first look, first impressions into this camera. I haven't had too long really to evaluate it now, but like I said, the first impressions of it are very, very positive, and already by accident it's given me a great image. I think that particularly fantastic M51 result was really kind of encouraging, and I'm massively looking forward to Galaxy season now, going ahead and using this quite a lot more, and I hope that you're going to enjoy seeing me use it too. So I'd just like to wrap things up now and say, of course, thanks again to Player One for the opportunity to try this camera out. I'm having a bunch of fun with it, and I hope long may it continue. And as always, it goes without saying, but I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys watching these videos and the time and the support that you give me. I can't say thank you enough, but I'll just keep on trying anyway, and hopefully you'll get the message. So genuinely, thank you very much indeed. And I think with that, that's about everything for today. So I'll wrap it up there and just say, until next time, clear skies.